Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Awesemo.com live before lock show. We're talking about the day's DFS slate and, just MLB, really. It's all that's going on in the world today. I'm Chris Spags, joined by the baseball savant himself, Mr. Jake Hari. How's it going?
It's going well. It's a good slate and a lot of great pitching, so that's always fun for me. And I'm ready to make some money. I know you are ready for the same.
Yeah, we got 7 games today, so limited options. Kind of I wouldn't say, I would say it's a weird slate. Not a lot of pitchers give up a ton of dangerous hits, maybe 1 or 2 of them. But let's talk about it. Also, just before we get into it, if you are a premium member, Awesemo has an article up right now in which he breaks down the likelihood of the pitchers being the top performing guy on the slate. So go check that out. It's this perfect pitcher article if you go to the homepage, and it's there if you're a premium member. Where are you thinking tonight for pitcher, Jake? There's so many good options.
Yeah, so, we talked about Scherzer. I don't think we need to talk about Scherzer that much. He's super expensive. I think he's worth it, especially on a night where you've got a Tyon and Kyle Gibson and, some guys like Matz and even Tyson Ross to some extent. But so Scherzer's not going to be that tough to fit in. I like Snell a ton. The problem is I don't know if I'll be able to play him because of this weather. It looks like it's actually trending better now, the Twins weather. So I'm pretty excited. I hope I get Snell. I hope I get the okay for Snell and then that he's very low owned, because I think he will be if this game looks like it's in doubt at all.
So you're comfortable playing that game? I mean, you're in Minnesota. I guess not obviously for people who are new to the stream. What's the weather looking like over there? I guess what's making you feel more confident about it?
Well, I'm looking at AccuWeather right now, just like the future radar, and like there's going to be some rain at some point, I think. But we're 2 hours away from game time, so a lot could change. It could clear up. It could get a lot worse. The good thing is you're not going to have to make your decision right now, or at 7:05 Eastern. You can make it at 8:05 Eastern or whatever, 5 minutes before this game locks. And you've still got decent options. You could still go to Paxton if you leave some salary. You could still go to Stripling and pay down and construct your lineup a little bit differently. So it's not like there's no options, which I also like about Snell. That's why I'm probably going to leave him in unless it starts looking really bad in the next 20 or 30 minutes. I'll probably just leave him in, and I'm just going to roll with it. I will end up, even if it looks ugly, I'm probably going to roll with some Snell lineups regardless, because I think he's just going to be way too low owned.
Yeah, I'm with you on Snell. I didn't play him a ton because, again, he's in that price jumble of being a little underpriced of some of the other guys, being a little over some of the other guys. I feel like I probably have too much Ross Stripling, and we're currently projecting his ownership has risen through the day. I felt like he was going to be pretty highly owned throughout, but now we have him projected to be, I believe, the number 3 overall owned pitcher for our ownership projections on Awesemo.com. I do like Snell as a pivot off of Stripling. I think Alex was down on him. Awesemo was down on Snell a little, and Paxton, he felt like they were overpriced. But I actually think both those guys are pretty good pivots off of the maybe chalkier options and Scherzer, and the riskier options with Severino and Kluber, both of them going against tough lineups. How are you handling Severino and Kluber?
I'm playing quite a bit of Severino, actually, and very little Kluber. So Severino is kind of where I'm making my stand on this game. He's also another guy that I think is going to be too low owned, just has so much talent, and this lineup is tough. But he's been very, very good against lefties. So I think that'll scare some people off, the lefty power up top. But I just think Severino is so talented. And this total has been dropping. And he's an even bigger favorite than this morning. So kind of got Vegas on our side. I mean, a little bit of line movement, nothing crazy. But still just another reason that I'm talking myself into Severino besides his obvious talent.
Your boy Wade Miley making his return to the league. Obviously, he is the lowest priced pitcher on the day. presumably for good reason. But how are you feeling about Wade Miley as the cheapest guy and his potential of doing anything good at all tonight?
I ended up with some Wade Miley, but that's because I'm paying up for a lot of guys and I want to also pay up for some bats. And I mean, I don't feel great about it, although I will say Pittsburgh's total has dropped throughout the day. They were up to 4.6 earlier today. Now they're at 4.2, I'm seeing. So if you like the Vegas angle, that's something to at least note. I don't know. I don't think Wade Miley's very good, but I think he's got an okay chance at 15 points, which if you get right on your SP1, that could be valuable if some of the expensive bats start going off and Tyon and Mats don't get there.
Yeah, I think that was sort of where I fell with Miley as well. We had him projected for 1% ownership throughout the day. I think now he's up to 2%. To me, that seems like a good spot to attack just because he's so cheap. It's probably going to give you a different lineup construction than some of the other people. I think both of those factors combined would make Miley at least the consideration, not somebody I'm super excited about. His numbers were terrible before he went on the DL, but I'm willing to give him a shot tonight because it's a weird slate, and I do think ownership is so concentrated with a handful of guys. I mean, maybe not even a handful. I feel like 5 guys are getting pretty decent ownership. Which of them are jumping out to you as someone you don't want to play? Because for me, it's Jameson Taillon. He's not really giving up home runs, and he's not giving up hard contact, but he also doesn't grade out as particularly good to me, and we have him being very highly owned.
Yeah, it's the price thing. It's not a perfect matchup for Taillon, but he is really good against righties. So I think he can be okay here. But I'm also playing the other side. I have a lot of Brewer stacks with Yelich, Thames, Shaw, and Brad Miller. And Miller's just one of the guys that kind of makes sense at second base, which is a garbage position today. So by default, I just have a bunch of Brewer stacks. I think it's a boomer bust spot for Taillon. The problem at 5,700 is if he gets 25 here, which I think is pretty reasonable, if he's got his stuff, that's probably going to ruin the slate in that you're going to need him at that ownership to compete in tournaments.
Unless Wade Miley comes through and is a pitcher's duel.
Yeah.
The long-awaited Wade Miley, Jameson Taillon pitcher's duel. Yeah, I'm with you on that. I think I might have like one Taillon out of 20 lineups or so. I think the Brewer stack is a little more appealing to me, especially the lefty components of that, which they have obviously a couple of big hitters on there. Thames in particular with some crazy power, Shaw with some power. Aguilar as a righty, I'm okay as part of that stack, but I agree with the general approach to the lefties. There would be who I would go against if you do want to fade Taillon. What stacks are you going to so far the most?
Yeah, let me pull that up right now. So I mentioned the Brewers. They're not my highest owned stack, but they're up there. I have Toronto against Price as the Slack updates.
I had that too.
Yeah, so I got my laptop over here too, so I'm not trying to run 2 different crunches on the same computers as well as this stream. But I have the Dodgers. I love them against Tyson Ross, not Ross Stripling, Tyson Ross. And then the Nationals I like a lot against Mats, and it's a very good running matchup for Turner. I mentioned Michael Taylor ended up in the lineup as well. That's also a huge boost for him. 3,500 batting 7th. Matt's one of the worst guys in the MLB at holding on runners. I mean, those are primarily where I'm going. I also like Seattle as well.
So the Dodgers you mentioned up front, to me, they were actually my favorite stack of the day, in part because I don't see a ton of home run possibilities on the slate. It seems to me like the pitching is good enough. The hitters on the other side who would be hitting home runs tend to be in matchups with a really good pitcher. I'm not seeing a crazy amount of home runs per 9 on the pitcher's side overall. So to me, my thought process is going to the Dodgers. And again, noting that I am sort of biased against the Dodgers in general, not because I'm in LA, but more because I tend to think they're undervalued. I like the idea. They have so many lefties. I don't think they're going to hit a lot of home runs in Petco, but I think they can just get hits against Ross all day. And I think people are going to be chasing home runs, trying to figure out how to force like a home run pick in. And I think Tyson Ross is just kind of general bad. He's not giving up a crazy amount of home runs, but he's just a bad pitcher. So I like the idea of them just being able to bat around him a couple times.
No, I completely agree. I think when people think of stacks, they think of, all right, who's going to hit 5 home runs? And, yeah, it's great when that happens, like last night in the Coors game and the Cleveland game. But most nights that's not going to happen. You're going to need guys to hit singles, and now you got all of a sudden you got 2 guys on, and now you hit a double and you clear the bases, and the next guy hits a single, and the points will pile up. It doesn't necessarily all have to come with home runs. So I agree. You can target bad parks, especially you've got a really hot Dodgers team. Not that hot matters, but you've got a Dodgers team that is hitting well against a pitcher that gives up a lot of hard hits to lefties. They've got a lefty-heavy lineup, assuming they come out with their lineup at some point soon. And yeah, they don't have to do it all with the long ball. They can just hit. They can get hard hits. Big park. The gaps are going to be bigger. It's just an awesome spot for the Dodgers. I think they should be one of the highest owned stacks, and I don't see them as ending up that way.
Yeah, I think maybe a couple components. I think some of the lefty bats are we have projected to be a little higher on. But again, if you're going down to like Tolles or working in a Taylor or even Grandal, you're not getting as much ownership there if you are doing a full stack. And if Tolles is in the lineup, I think he's a good play. Somebody in the chat mentioned him too. I like him as being a cheap little play to throw in there, or relatively cheap. I guess not actually that cheap. Relatively cheap. And again, the lefty split with Ross is particularly noticeable, but he's just bad all around. So I think that's one thought I had. You mentioned Seattle. How are you feeling about Tyler Skaggs coming off the DL?
Yeah, so is this his first start since the return? I guess I didn't even think about that.
I think so. I think he had one start within the last couple of weeks.
Okay.
So I don't know.
Yeah, did he skip a start? Here, I can look it up right now. I'm getting my days mixed up because I already did the night shift for tonight. So I've got like I've got like 2 days worth of pictures in my head right now. So yeah, his last start was June 30th. So it looks like he skipped a start, hasn't made one in 12 days, which is fine. I mean, pitchers skip starts, whatever. They got a nagging injury, and sometimes they come back better, sometimes they don't. So it's not really. I mean, I think Skaggs is a pretty good pitcher, but on a slate,
he was really good in his last start before injury.
Yep, on a slate with just a ton of good pitchers, or relatively a lot. Based on how many total pitches there are, I think he's got a chance to allow a lot of hard hits to the righties, Haniger, Cruz, Healy, and then this also a very good stolen base matchup for Segura and D. Gordon, which I don't think people have mentioned. Skaggs I have as one of the worst guys at holding on runners behind Matt, but not that far actually. He looks pretty terrible. And which is weird for lefties, but you've got 2 of them on this slate that can't hold runners, and that's appealing for a stack when you're looking for bats. Yeah, D. Gordon and Segura probably aren't going to hit home runs, but if they get on base, they could steal.
Are there any of the chalky pitchers that you are trying to attack and go the other way with? I think we talked about Tyon. To me, he strikes me as a guy who that you can definitely do that with. David Price also is going to pick up a fair amount of ownership. I have some lineups with him, but I also think Toronto is a pretty interesting stack going against him, given some of his struggles versus righties lately and very hard contact. I don't know what the issue is, if he's just not getting good movement or what, but he's got shelled in his last couple starts. But he's still getting strikeouts, which is weird. I don't know. Like I think Toronto is a sneaky one to attack if you're trying to go fade Price ownership, and I think Milwaukee is to fade Tyon ownership. What about you? Any of these pitchers you want to go against?
Yeah, I think Price is one of them. I'm pretty comfortable stacking against. Like I said, Matt's for both his numbers against righties, and I think he is a little bit overrated in that people want to use him quite a bit. I think he will be used tonight, and I'm going to be mostly on the other side. We mentioned Ross. Of course, always stackable, and then Miley, Tyon we mentioned. I don't know. Are you asking like who is maybe someone? What are you asking?
Like who's the best leverage play would be my thought. And I think it's probably Tyon.
Tyon.
But I do think Price is owned enough too where he might be a good one. Right? At least his ownership might have gone down a little.
Yeah.
He's still close enough. Yeah, I think he's still a good leverage play.
Yeah. No. Anytime you're in the 20s, like that's going to be a good leverage play if you can hit on a stack against them. Because usually the stack, when someone's in the 20s, the stack is whatever, like 7-8%, and that's huge. Yeah, I mean, I don't love stacking against this guy, but I have some Yankees stacks. And it's just a slate thing. If this was a 15 gamer, I wouldn't have Yankee stacks, but I think Kluber has given up a lot more hard contact this year, and the Yankees have some good hitters on their team. So you got Judge, who can hit righties with the best of them. Bird's waking up a little bit. I like Hicks. I know Josh doesn't, but there are some hitters in here that I like, even if they're going up against a pitcher that is very, very good.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I actually a couple of one-off Didi Gregoriuses because I think at shortstop, like people have Trey Turner. We have Trey Turner as being the highest owned shortstop on the slate. I'm a little more intrigued by going either Lindor or Didi, just because I think they both fit the matchup pretty well. And I think, if you are trying to go with a less chalky pick, those guys against really elite pitching seem to me like they should be better than Trey Turner, who doesn't have a ton of power. And I get Matz isn't the best pitcher, but he's been pretty competent lately. So I don't know. I do feel like that's where I fell more with the New York stack, was just taking a one piece or two. How do you feel about the Boston stack? They are the team with the highest total on the slate. J.A. Happ's been getting rocked lately. I'll be honest up front. I actually have a little bit of J.A. Happ just because I think he's due for some aggression. And Boston does strike out a good amount versus lefties. But how are you feeling about him?
Yeah, so the thing about Boston, I like probably four guys a ton. So Betts, JD, Pierce, those guys are clearly the top three. I don't think anyone's going to argue with me on that. And then I like Xander. I think Leon is okay. So I can get to a four-man stack, maybe a five-man, but I think the stack overall is going to be over-owned. I don't want to play Eduardo Nunez. I'm not a big fan of Holt against a lefty. Not a big fan of Jackie Bradley against a lefty. So people are going to look to those guys to make their stack cheaper, but I don't think I will be full stacking the Red Sox. On DK, I took them out of my main stacks. I'm just mini stacking them.
Oh, also worth noting, the Dodgers lineup just came out. It is Peterson hitting leadoff, Muncy, Bellinger, Grandal. My screen has moved away. Taylor, Tolles, Hernandez, Utley. So that top, actually 1 through 4, and then maybe skipping Taylor in some and going Tolles would be really interesting. No Justin Turner.
No Justin Turner, yeah.
Yeah. I like that because he is pretty bad against righty hitting, or not pretty bad, but relative to some of these lefties, not as good of a matchup versus Tyson Ross. Yeah, that stack looks even better to me. I'm intrigued by that.
I really would have liked to see Turner in there, but I do like Tolles for 3,700. I'm not going to go with Utley, I don't think. And then Kike against a righty isn't as appealing against a lefty, obviously, but I think he's fine. I mean, 3,400 dual position eligibility, he makes the stack pretty easy.
Yeah, I agree. It's an interesting lineup for them. They know what Tyson Ross's weakness is, and they're going right after it. Let's see. I guess we could start doing either ors. Or actually, what's your least favorite stack of the night? Let's touch on that first. Which one do you think is going to be a little too owned and doesn't look that great to you?
Good question. Good question. I think the Twins are kind of going to be chalky. If this weather looks okay, and it doesn't really look great right now, but I think the Twins are going to have some ownership, and I think that's a mistake, honestly. You guys know my take on Snell. I think he's elite, and I don't want to stack up against him. I'd rather stack up against Kluber. I don't know if I'd stack up against Stripling, but I think I'd rather go with an Angel stack against Paxton. So that's where I'm at. I think the Twins are going to be over-owned. A lot of guys in double digits that I don't understand.
Yeah, that's fair. I think for me, I would go with Boston. Not that they're a bad team by any stretch. I just think that Happ is going to figure it out tonight. Again, this is the same bet I made on Sonny Gray last night, which I felt really good about. But I mean, which is amazing to say even as a sentence that you can feel good about Sonny Gray at any point. But sometimes these guys are just getting so beaten up where it does seem like they're due to kind of level out a little. And I think that's where Happ is falling, at least for me. But I'd watch that be very wrong when he gives up 20 home runs.
I misunderstood you then. So you're saying you are playing Happ?
Oh, I'm absolutely playing Happ, yeah.
Okay.
Like I have probably a decent, I mean, way over the field because we have him projected to be, I think, 2% owned. I'm going with closer to 25 or 30. Obviously, I'm doing much less lineup stuff.
I don't hate that. So the Red Sox have been much better against righties, and for the season, you still look at their numbers; they don't look spectacular against lefties. And I don't think he's the craziest play, and it's a decent leverage play off these Red Sox bats. So I get it. I think Happ is good. He's priced correctly, and he's a really, really good leverage play. And if you don't want to play Gibson, Happ for $700 more, that's attractive on a slate this small.
I did like Gibson a little. So I'm still avoiding that game mostly. I mean, I know you've said the weather and you're a little more piece of it. My lineups are basically done anyway when we do the stream. But I did like Gibson earlier in the day, and then once I saw the weather concerns, I came off. I think there's strikeouts for him, and one of your favorite stats, Jake, he has been getting a ton of swinging strikes his last couple outings, up to 16.4% his last couple games versus 11% before that. And then obviously Tampa Bay is not a super powerful lineup, and they do have some strikeouts in this particular lineup today. So I don't mind Kyle Gibson if you're not afraid of the weather either. I feel like that's one more guy we should touch on.
Yeah, so Gibson, he looked awesome in his last start after the first inning. Got roughed up for a few runs, some hard contact, whatever, it happens. Settled down, went 7 innings, 9 strikeouts. I was there watching him pitch. He looked like unhittable for a while. It was Baltimore, so you have to take that in some context. They're one of the worst teams in the MLB. They strike out the most against righties, all that. But his slider does look impressive, and it's one of the best in terms of whiffs per swing. He's going to get a handful of righties here. There are a lot of things to like for me for Gibson. So I'll have well over the field on him. And as of now, I'm playing this game. If something changes, I will let you guys know.
Somebody asked about Grandal or Elias Diaz. Which of those two would you go with? Diaz going against Wade Miley, Grandal getting the infamous Tyson Ross.
Those are my 2 favorite catchers. So I think it would go Grandal, but it's really close.
I would go Grandal as well. I think it's closer as well to me because Miley gives up a lot more home runs, and obviously we've talked about Dodgers are not in a great home run park. So I think Diaz is a good play. I would probably be more inclined to trust Grandal more because I think he's a better all-around player.
Yeah, just a side note, it's getting really dark here, so if I lose power, apologies. We should probably do home run picks just in case.
If Jake loses power, we're done. So,
yeah.
Also, probably not a great sign for the Twins game if Jake loses power, I would say.
Well, there's going to be rain. There's no doubt about that at some point. If they can wait a little while, I think they should be able to get the game in. But, you never know with these kind of storms. They just may pop up. Screw you.
It's funny. Let's do home run picks because it is that time of the day. I'm going to let you go first again because I haven't actually thought about it enough. As is always the case. We never really prepare these in advance. We just go with gut feelings when we hit the air.
Did Josh make his pick yet?
If you put it in the chat, I didn't see it.
I'm scrolling through the chat. Let's see.
Josh, by the way, did not have a correct home run pick yesterday, so it's a great day. It was a great day for America, except that neither of us also had a home run pick. But Alex, our founder, Mr. Osimo himself, did in fact correctly select a home run pick, and he picked Craig Bird, who hit a grand slam. So that's why that guy gets the big bucks.
Chris, you want to undo or take off your undo your camera and turn it back on?
Oh, is it frozen again?
Yeah, you're frozen.
Hold on.
I couldn't get the word out there. I don't know what's wrong with me here. I'm getting pretty nervous about this storm. I don't want to go away from you guys.
I just did it again, if that works.
All right, let's see. I mean, it's fine on my end, but it looks like... Oh, there we go. On the stream, it's showing up now. Okay.
Okay, good. There.
So, home run pick. I will take... So, Josh is waiting 10 more minutes. I'm going to take our boy, Max Muncy.
I do like that. It hurts. He hit a home run the day after I picked him twice in a row, which is the classic fucking situation, which is getting really frustrating, but
always
it is a great pick.
Always.
If you're gonna go Max Muncy, then I'm gonna josh you and go with Cody Bellinger. who is on the same lineup, also a lefty, also has a pretty good home run rate. Not in the home run derby like Max Muncy is, but it's good. Let's all go Dodgers. Let's go. We'll find out Josh's pick in 10 minutes, and we'll repeat ours then. This guy DFS Cash talking a lot today. What are you promoting something, buddy? Jesus. The radar at St. Paul looks gnarly, very bad storm, and does not appear to be moving.
Yeah. I mean, it doesn't look great where I'm at. I'm about, like I said, 20, 25 minutes away. So we shall see. But right now, I'm leaving in.
We got Josh's home run pick in, so just to close the loop on that, Josh going with Kendrys Morales for Toronto. I actually don't mind that. I think Toronto is an interesting stack, and I like Smoke more than Kendry, but I feel like I always have that issue, and then Josh gets it right, so whatever. Kendrys Morales, a fine part of a Tampa Bay stack. What are you talking about, promoting winning? Okay, DFS Cash. Anyway, Hicks or Stanton. Let's do some either ors since we're getting a ton of these now. If you want to drop your either or in the chat, just do it. We'll get to them as in a row here. Andujar or Seager, which would you go with?
Andujar or Seager. I don't really like either of those, but I would go Seager, I think.
I also don't like either. I'd probably go Andujar. Hicks or Stanton?
Hicks.
I mean, I feel like you can't say not Stanton, so I would go Stanton. How would you rank Kane, Yelich, and Marte?
Kane, Yelich, Marte. I would go... Oh, Brewers also have a good stolen base matchup, by the way. So that's also why I like them as a stack. Tyon could implode. What was it? Kane, Yelich, and who?
Marte? I don't know why it's two guys from the same team and one from a different team.
Same,
sure.
Same game. Yelich, Kane, Marte.
I believe I would also go Yelich, Kane, Marte. Hey, we agree on that one. Let's see. Picking Stripling or Paxton on FanDuel.
Man, probably Stripling.
I'd probably go Paxton. I'm assuming Stripling. I don't have FanDuel ownership open. I assume that there's a similar chalkiness to Stripling tonight, so I'd probably go Paxton just to differentiate when you only have the one pitcher.
Sure.
Best second baseman tonight.
Oh, it's ugly. Let's see who I have the most of. We'll do it that way. D. Gordon, actually. As weird as that is, lefty-lefty.
So as a one-off, I don't mind Brian Dozier. I also feel like I had a lot of Josh Harrison in my stacks of Pittsburgh. I don't know. To be honest, it's not a great one. I'm gonna stick with Brian Dozier just as a one-off, but I'm not stacking Minnesota, and I do think Snell's a good play, but I think Dozier's got a pretty good individual matchup. Ji-Man Choi. People are asking about Ji-Man Choi, who is in the Tampa Bay game, which we are now deeply concerned about the weather. But how are you feeling about Ji-Man? Is he Ji-Man for you tonight?
He's Ji-Man, especially on FanDuel. I think he's minimum salary over there, so just tough not to play him when he's going up against Gibson. I mean, I love Gibson as much as the next guy, but min salary guy with pop that's shown he can hit home runs as recent as this season. So, yeah, I mean, on FanDuel, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, Choi has one of the best home run rates on the slate. Crazy isolated power, 372. He's getting on base at a good clip. I think he strikes out a lot, but whatever. That's the trade-off you get for all of this. So I'm okay with Choi, assuming you're okay with the weather. I think that's sort of the main issue there. And I'm not crazy about that weather. Let's see. Safest, actually no. Steve Pearce or Nelson Cruz? Who would you go with?
Steve Pearce or Nelson Cruz? Nelson Cruz.
I'd probably go Cruz too. I think I'm okay with Cruz. What do we have here? Brad Miller gonna pop one tonight. I think Brad Miller's a good part of that stack. I like him and some of the other lefties on there. So I'm okay with that. I don't know that he's going to pop one tonight, but he's a pretty good play in general.
I think he's a good play as well. I don't know if he'll pop one, but maybe a RBI double or something.
Yeah, that works. Who's Alex's domino tonight? That's only when he's on the show, AO Crypto. We don't just get him from him as a pick. Should I coin flip between Snell and Severino? How this guy, Matt Crowdwell, can't decide. How would you decide?
I would go Snell. God, I mean, if you're willing to take the risk that that game may not play, I would go Snell. You also are going to get very, very little ownership on Snell against a team that I project will strike out quite a bit.
I'm with you on that. Is Hernan Perez? What? He's not even in the lineup. What are you? This guy's just trolling. Anyway, Utley a $low option. I think Utley's okay. I would rather have some of the better guys on there, but I think he's got a good matchup given that he also fits the lefty bat criteria, which is going to be a thing to exploit in that lineup. So I'm okay with Utley, but not my favorite part of that lineup.
I would agree. I mean, as a filler, if you need him, if you're paying up for pitching at one or both spots, and he's the last guy in, that's fine. But I'm not going out of my way to play Chase Utley.
Who's this Josh Engelman Snell troll? Some asshole. He just comes in the chat. We don't know who he is. Apparently his nickname on the streets is the Chubster, so make sure to call him that, because otherwise he'll feel wildly disrespected. You guys generally say bats when you GPPs. I really want to use mats with this lineup construction. Would this be a way to differentiate yourself? This would be for a single entry FanDuel GPP. Would you recommend using mats on FanDuel?
Let me see here. Let's see. Let me get a refresher on his price. So if you think you have the nut bats or whatever, and mats fits, I think in general that's a fine play. If you think the expensive bats are really worth it on a night, he's 7,800. I mean, okay, if you can't get up to Price or Hap, or if you don't want to play, if you don't want to play Tyon, so you're paying up, right, to be contrarian, then sure, it's a way to differentiate. I don't think Mats is terrible. I mean, I don't think he's very good, but yeah, if you just want to go for the differentiation, I don't think, I wouldn't be mad at you if you played him.
Also, I just turned my camera on and off because I noticed I froze again on the stream. Okay. It's been a tough technical day for us. We also had something to promote, by the way. Josh and I have an NFL video we did where we broke down all the offseason stuff, every single move, every coaching change, Vegas odds, win totals, all that stuff, MVP odds. So go check it out on the channel. Hopefully, also there's a companion article on awesemo.com, which is free. Needed to kind of start your NFL season, so please go check that out. I think I'm still frozen on the screen, whatever, I don't even care at this point. Yeah, I'm not crazy about Mats tonight, to also wrap that up real fast. Washington still scares me a little bit. I think people just want to get a cheap pitcher in there, and I think Mats is a guy who I would rather use some of the slightly more expensive guys, maybe get a little more security out of my pitching there. Morales or Josh Bell for a DK cash game?
Morales or Josh Bell? I think I'm with Josh there. I think I would go Morales. So, Morales.
I would go Josh Bell. I mean, not to pick against our Josh, but also fuck our Josh. But I like Josh Bell pretty much all day. I like the matchup targeting Miley, so I'm okay with Josh Bell. Smoke or Marte? Smoke.
Yeah, Smoke.
Yeah, that one I don't really think is close. Marte's my least favorite play on that side tonight.
That's fair.
Dodger lineup is out. Yeah, we already covered that, but thank you, XTJ104. Fantasy football advice, signed up for premium today. Congrats, welcome to premium. Thanks for signing up, buddy. Looking to take down the 150 max on DK. I don't feel great about the high price starting pitchers on DK. Is going 70% Scherzer too much? It's an interesting question. What do you think, Jake?
I mean, I think that's too much on this slate, but if you feel really great about Scherzer, wow, I'm getting completely pissed on right now. If you feel great about Scherzer, then go with your guy. I mean, if because Scherzer's not going to be that highly owned. And if you want to be over the field or you want to double the field, then by all means, go for it.
Yeah, I think if you don't feel great about the pitchers, I've said this similar concept before, I think on one of the streams, where I think if you're paying up for a guy, you're paying for safety in general, or the hope is that you're paying for safety, whereas if you're going down the field, you're paying for variance, so you're paying for the minute chance of success. So if you feel like Scherzer is the best pitcher, I think that's worth kind of building around him and going from there because, there's a lot of uncertainty with the cheaper pitching on the slate once you get underneath Stripling, I would say. Maybe even including Stripling. People asking about Jock Peterson. Can you rank Jock Peterson, Muncy, and Bellinger? What would you rank them?
Jock Peterson, Muncy, and Bellinger. I'd go Muncy, Bellinger, Jock. Dude, they're so close. I mean, that's tough.
I would actually go Muncy, Bellinger, Jock, but because I picked Bellinger for a home run and Jake picked Muncy, I would go Bellinger, Muncy, Jock, just out of spite and to support my guy. Jake, do you have any candles in case your power is completely gone?
Dude, I need something here. I don't know what I'm gonna do. I do have a phone though. My phone is fully charged. I don't know how I haven't lost power already because like my windows, like I can feel like my windows just about to cave in here.
Well, it's a beautiful day in Los Angeles, Jake, if that helps. It's very warm, very, very sunny.
Oh, I'm glad.
Do y'all ever like to stack pitchers with hitters from the same game? Or the same team? Is that ever a priority? I wouldn't say you want to stack a pitcher with a hitter, but I think they're both separate matchups. They're both like independent of each other. So there's no issue with it, but it's not something I would push unless Jake has a different idea about that.
Is that just correlating pitchers, that question?
Yeah, just like a pitcher with like the same hitting stack.
So that's something I love to do in hockey, and I think hockey and baseball are similar. Some people will argue that, if your stack goes off early, your pitcher will relax and let up runs. I'm not into that. I mean, you want the win, and especially if it's a cheap pitcher and you have the stack, I have no problem throwing the pitcher in if it's like a punt price or whatever.
Yeah, sure. I agree.
So, I mean, I'm not doing it on purpose, but if that's what you got to do to fit your lineup in, then I won't be like, no, I'm not playing my pitcher with my stack.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I don't think there's any reason to avoid it in general. I would view them as independent events. Like, I mean, yeah, sometimes if a team starts scoring more, the other team will score more, but I don't think that's a strong enough data point to worry about. Utley to cap off a 5-man Dodgers stack or Perella. If Utley finishes a 5-man stack is always better than not. So I would say go Utley, but Jake, Utley or Perella, which would you go with?
I'm playing more Utley, so I have to say Utley just because of his price and he fits. So
let's see, Romine or Sandy Leon. If we're going to the shitty AL East catcher market, which would you go with?
That would be Sandy Leon for me.
That's fair. I just want to check. This guy says Guillermo Heredia for a home run.
Really? If you can predict that, then you shouldn't be playing DFS. You should be going to Vegas.
Yeah, that's the righty matchup is not bad, but he hits a home run 1.8% of the time versus a lefty, so not necessarily where I would go, but hey, I like the thought.
Yeah, I just don't have him being that great of a hitter, so that's my thing. But
would you go Skaggs or Tyon tonight?
Tyon, yeah, I'd go with the chalk there. I think I'm worried about Skaggs in this matchup.
I don't hate Skaggs tonight, and I think I'd probably just cast the line with him instead because I don't think Tyon's that great, and at least Skaggs is different, so that's something. Is Skaggs going to be on a pitch count? I don't know. I would assume he's going to be on something of a pitch count, right?
I would assume if he hasn't started in 12 days, he may not be on a pitch count, but they may limit him or pull him. Or like if he's through 85 in 5 innings or whatever, and he's pitching pretty well, don't be surprised if he gets pulled, type of thing.
Yeah, that works. Tyon and Ross for GPP pitcher. Yeah, I mean, based on all the Dodgers questions we're getting today, Ross would certainly be a contrarian play, just not one I'm dying to do, though. We do want to point to a precedent. Eric Lauer did just have a great outing versus the Dodgers, also graded out pretty similarly to Tyson Ross. And his logic afterwards was, we just hate the Dodgers so much. So who knows? Maybe Tyson Ross will be emboldened by hating Los Angeles. Why not?
That could certainly be possible. I have some Tyson Ross just because he makes some stuff fit, and so technically I'll probably be over the field, but I'm just under the field on so many other guys where I had to have someone in there. So not crazy about the Ross play. I think Lauer was actually a better play the other night, and I think we actually picked him as our Paul Blackburn, right?
We did. A lot of strikeouts on the Dodgers side, which Lauer was a little more competent at getting, but
and
Ross is not.
There were a lot of lefty in there, and most of the Dodgers bats that you're scared of are from the left side, so that's why that play made more sense than the Ross play, even as a guy who is playing some Ross.
I agree. People talking about Mets home runs. Do you have any super duper contrarian anti-Scherzer stacks?
Stacks? I mean, I probably have some minis on FanDuel of like 3-man, but if I was doing it by hand, I got to my 25th lineup and I wanted to play a Mets stack, it would be Nimmo, Cabrera, Conforto, and maybe Dendecker because he's close to mid-salary, but that's about it.
I don't mind the home run rates for the Mets. That's 1 through 5 on the Mets going against Scherzer. I think it's not terrible. It's not a stack I got to, and again, not one either that I'd be crazy about. But Scherzer does give up some fly balls, does give up some contact occasionally. He's had a rough couple last outings, at least relative to his usual greatness. So I would say, I could see maybe going with that. Some of the lefties there. More so the lefties, but I could see doing it if you wanted.
Yeah. Dude, can you guys hear this?
I thought I heard a banging noise. Was that thunder?
That's like my window getting just crushed by wind and rain.
Oh.
So,
that's fun.
We may be in the final minutes here. I don't know. If it goes out, it's not because we stopped the stream on purpose. It is because we are just getting an epic storm right here. And 20 minutes away from Target Field, so not feeling great about my Blake Snell and Kyle Gibson love right now, but I don't know that I'll have time to fix it.
I'll tell you what, though, if you want another live stream that can give you live weather from Minnesota, we are the only one. I am telling you that right now. There's nobody else right now who's actively getting hit by the same weather pattern that might affect the baseball game.
There are a couple other tout sites that have guys from Minnesota. So.
But are they on right now? Probably not.
I don't know. That's a good point. Right now, that's probably a good point.
This is real live shit. You're learning straight from the source. Who is the Paul Blackburn pick of the night for a pitcher who seems shitty, but may in fact be part of the winning lineup? Who would you pick for that, Jake?
Wade Miley. And you're frozen, by the way.
Yeah, I've been frozen for a while. I tried turning my camera. I think it's something on your end now, but I just don't care enough to ask you about it.
Who would you pick?
I'll turn it off and on one more time if you want to fix it. But
who would you pick?
I would actually go Wade Miley as well. I like
it.
Coming off of an injury, I mean, not a spot you want to play, but he's so cheap. And I feel like if you're going with him and one of the more expensive pitchers, you're getting off of the beaten path. You're probably getting some different stacks. So I think it's Wade Miley. But boy, do I not feel good about that one. I'll tell you that much. Is Trout worth it tonight? I think Trout usually is not worth it, to be honest. But what do you think, Jake?
Trout he's going to be very low owned against Paxton. So anytime you get a low owned Trout, not everybody, but most people that play a guy that's 6K will just go to Mookie Betts because it's a perceived better matchup, and it probably is. But I think Mookie's going to be 5 or 6 times the ownership of Trout. So that's a good pivot. They're both against lefties. They both crush lefties. They both crush everything. So just as an ownership play, yeah, I love Trout.
That's fair. And I also, in a matchup with a tougher pitcher, I do think the star players tend to have to pull a little more weight. So going with Trout is not a terrible narrative logic either. Jake, do you like the chances of the Minnesota game playing? Luis Scalise apparently not witnessing you in darkness as your apartment falls apart.
Yeah. Let's see. I'm looking at the radar. I'm trying to block out what's going on over here, where it sounds like my house is going to get struck by lightning, but we will see. So let's look at the future radar. And I don't know what the DFS weathermen are saying. If you guys know one, if you trust one, that's fine. Feel free to add in your 2 cents or their 2 cents. But it looks like it's just this really bad storm right now. And that's the one you may be able to hear. But
oh wow, yeah, that is getting actual noise.
Yeah. And this is going to go over, I don't know if it's traveling east. I'm sure it's traveling east to Minneapolis. And then it's going to go over, and it's going to be really ugly for a while. But this game is not supposed to start for another hour and 15 minutes. So I think we still got hope.
Okay. Somebody asked about Aledmys Diaz. Not a play that I would make. If you're looking for somebody cheap in that lineup, I would go Devon Travis. But actually, he's actually my second favorite second baseman besides Dozier tonight. Now that I think about it, any thoughts on Aledmys Diaz?
I don't mind Aledmys Diaz. He came up for me quite a bit just because he's like the only one that was decent in I think a decent spot. The problem is he's batting 9th, so
yeah,
whatever. I mean,
not great, and he doesn't grade out that well for me either. He barely gets on base. He's got no power. Doesn't hit home runs. Doesn't create runs. The only guy who looks worse in that lineup is Lourdes Gurriel, who looks just terrible. He's got a negative WRC plus so far. Not the best for him versus lefties. But no Diaz, no Gurriel for me. We've had 2 storms in Dallas for over 2 hours. Tornado sightings everywhere. Sorry about all the tough weather. Move to California, everybody. It's really always temperate.
Let's see if I have a tornado warning. I don't know. Sure seems like there should be some. No, just severe thunderstorm watch. No tornadoes. So, they're good.
Oh, you're fine then. Don't even worry about it.
Yeah, whatever.
Let's see. Got a bad storm coming, bro. Heavier cells.
Fade Minnesota. Hey, come on. They're going to be able to get this game in. I actually don't know that. If you are risk averse, who knows? They may see this when this goes over target field and just be like, we're not playing tonight. But you just never know how these teams are going to treat it. If people can even get to the ballpark, they might just call it early, which would be nice if they made a choice early.
Yeah, I thought I saw earlier that the storm might clear up before game time, but then kick in again, and then I don't know, that doesn't seem like the best.
Yeah,
but I'll probably ride with a couple Gibsons anyway. Why not? Thoughts on Jordan Luplow? You know what? I didn't mention this guy at all. Jordan Luplow, I find interesting. He hasn't done anything this year, but his overall numbers, he's hit enough home runs to hit on my radar. Not a ton of at bats, but he has gotten some power before. I don't hate him as part of that stack, and I have a little more Jordan Luplow than any human being should have tonight. Probably.
I've got some Luplow just because he's batting 5th against a lefty. I don't know much about him, but just in my Pirate stacks, I do have some of him. He came up in the projections a little bit.
Yeah, he's had, I believe, 32 at-bats so far in the majors. Hold on, his numbers just went away from me, of course. Yeah, so the thing that jumped out to me was his power numbers. He's also got a pretty strong home run rate, which, again, our Dong King, Mr. Josh Engelman, uses to try to predict home runs. So that's been something I've been trying to incorporate a little more. 241 isolated power. He's hitting home runs 6.25% of the time. Obviously, a very limited sample size. So I think he's got enough power. He's going against a bad righty or bad lefty rather who gives up home runs. He's a righty. I'm okay with it. I think he's cheap and he works. So, but in moderation though, he's pretty risky. I have a lot of Washington / Milwaukee / Dodgers thoughts. I am okay with Milwaukee and Dodgers. I don't have a lot of Nationals tonight.
Milwaukee and Dodgers and Nationals? That was the question?
Yep.
I like all 3 of those teams. Those are 3 of my favorite stacks, actually. So I'm right there with you. I mean, everybody's going to be on the Red Sox. They're a perfectly fine play, but I'm going a little bit off the beaten path, I hope.
Any thoughts on David Fletcher tonight going against your boy James Paxton? I guess it's not your boy. Blake Snell's your boy. But going against James Paxton, how do you feel about Fletcher?
I don't like Fletcher that much. I do like Trout, Simmons, and Upton to some extent.
Yeah, the results haven't been there for Fletcher versus lefties so far, and I think Paxton's good enough where I'm not super into David Fletcher, but I agree that the other righty's there. I'm totally fine with. Do you guys like Steven Matz or on DK tonight?
I'm not a huge fan of him. I ended up with a little bit, but man, I don't think it's that great of a spot. And if he's allowing base runners, especially Turner and Michael Taylor, he's going to get run all over.
Yeah, I'm not crazy about Matz tonight. I just don't think he's worth the ownership level, and I'd rather go a couple other places. Aguilar, is he good today, or would you fade him?
I think he's great today. Yeah, sure. I love the Brewers stack. So Aguilar's been like their best hitter this year. So I absolutely love him.
Yeah, I would prefer the lefties versus Tyon, but Aguilar is so good.
Mm-hmm.
He hits home runs and he gets on bases pretty strongly as well. So he's got all the stuff you would want. So I'm fine with him. But I do like the lefties a little more. I wouldn't force him, but I would take him as a righty over Kane if you were stacking. Let's see. Aguilar on beast mode. Yeah, Aguilar's been good. Aguilar will be in the home run derby, and I'm sure have his swing ruined, just like Max Muncy will, probably. That's the thing that to be aware of. What stack would you go with if starting a single-entry GPP on DK?
To answer Shark in there, Tyon. I have more Tyon than Matz by a long shot. If I'm making a single-entry stack, I do like the Nationals and the Dodgers. So I'd probably go with some combination of those guys, Nationals and Dodgers, or the Brewers. So those three that we just talked about.
I would probably go Dodgers and Pittsburgh for me personally. I think Pittsburgh is a good one. But I think the Brewers is good too because you get to fade Tyon as well. So it would be either Dodgers and Pittsburgh or Dodgers and Brewers. Anything else good? Any last minute either or guys? Get it in if you have any sort of either or type questions. Hurricane or tornado? Which would you prefer, Jake?
Man, probably a tornado. That seems quicker. From what I know, never experienced either one. Shark. It sounded like you were fading Tyon. Yeah, okay, so I'm not fading Tyon. I believe I'm under the field with Tyon, and but I do think the Brewers stack is it's probably the best leverage stack on the night because of Tyon's ownership. So I'm underweight on Tyon. I do have a decent amount of him, I think 20-25%, but according to our ownership projections, that's underweight, and I also am going to be well overweight on the Brewers bats. So that's the beauty of also, 150.
To quickly answer the hurricane or tornado question, I think you have to go tornado because there are movies about tornadoes. There are no movies about hurricanes. Hurricanes are just sad. Tornadoes, you got tornado chasers and stuff. It's a whole thing. Snell and Stripling, how do you feel about that pairing for DK? I feel like that's an expensive pairing, but it's a good one, a fine one. But
it is an expensive pairing, but I really like both of those guys. If you are risk averse, I'll say probably not the last time, but Snell, it's not looking great for Snell as far as them playing right now. That could change in the next hour. So if you are risk averse and don't want to deal with it, then take Snell out of your lineups. I'm leaving him in, and I have a lot of Snell way over the field, but if you don't want to deal with it, I don't blame you.
Somebody asking me about a Judge, Gregorius, and Stanton stack. Romine, sorry. Judge Gregorius and Romine from Stephen Burrell. How would you feel about that particular group?
Judge, Gregorius, Romine?
Yeah.
I like Judge quite a bit. Gregorius, I'm fine with. Romine, I think, is a little bit of an underrated hitter. So I don't mind it. Although you're going 3-4-8, I'd like to get a guy like Hicks. I know you're probably looking for a catcher, but if that fits, then yeah, I don't hate a little mini stack against Kluber.
Yeah, I like Judge and Gregorius, but I'm not crazy about Romine. And I agree with Jake's approach too. That's not really a logical stack. It's almost like you're stacking two separate parts of it in a way. Um, what do y'all think about Seattle? I think the righties there are the ones you would go with versus Skaggs, but well, let's touch on Seattle one more time, Jake.
Righties and speed. Skaggs has had trouble holding runners on. So D. Gordon and Segura, and then Haniger, Cruz, Healy, I think, are the guys that I really like.
Why have so much Snell when you can have the equivalent portfolio of Paxton, Severino, and Scherzer? Why risk it?
It's a good point. Why risk it? Because the ownership's going to be minuscule. I think Snell is one of the better pitchers in all the MLB, at least this year. And I love this matchup. So add those things together, and I'm not all in on Snell. I don't have 100% Snell, but I will be substantially over the field, assuming this one doesn't get postponed.
Choose two out of Yelich, Thames, and Peterson. I would probably go Yelich and Thames just for the stack purpose, but overall, it'd probably be Thames and Peterson for me.
Yelich, Thames, Peterson. Yelich. Oh man, that's tough. Yelich for sure. Then probably Jock.
Oh, no, poor Thames. No love.
No, a lot of love for Thames, but
not enough love.
He still has to outperform all three of them. Yeah, exactly. He still has to outperform all three of them. But if the game goes, I think he can outperform all three of them. And I don't think that'll be reflected in his ownership. No one's going to be on him. If that changes and they postpone the game, then I'll have to swap off, and I won't be able to swap onto Scherzer, Price, et cetera, et cetera. So I only have Paxton or Stripling to swap onto, really. But I'm comfortable with taking that risk until 7 or 8:10 Eastern.
Would you go Tyon or Matt for an SP2 in cash? I would assume that'd be Tyon because of the ownership on him. But
Tyon or Matt? In cash, Tyon.
Yeah.
More strikeout upside.
Too late to change, but where do you guys stand on Happ? We talked about Happ earlier in the show. I like him not a lot, but I think he's due to regress a little more. He's had a couple of bad outings. Boston does strike out a fair amount versus lefties, so I'm pretty into J Happ tonight. How do you feel, Jake?
He's someone that I actually, as we were talking and I was talking through it, I remember he came up in my projections, and I manually put him down. Like I manually subtracted a few points from him, and then I ended up with a lot more like Skaggs and Ross and Miley than I wanted, so I just added in J Happ. I do have some Happ. I think he's at the very least a good leverage pitcher for that Boston stack.
Yeah, that's where I fall with it too. It's the highest team total, but they're really not that great versus lefties. I mean, they're still the Boston Red Sox. Are still a good hitting team, but I think you're getting a pretty decent pitcher at an undervalued point. He's been over 10,000, over like close to 11,000 a couple of times this year on DK. You get him tonight for 7,400. He's in a shitty matchup. I think that's fine. I always see you guys logos in the top of the GPP many question marks. Yes, many of our staff have the logos. I don't think you use the logo, do you, Jake?
I do on DraftKings.
Oh, there you go.
I just switched it recently.
I use a photo of myself in a suit. That's what I want. That's what my brand is. I don't give my personal identity away. And there we go. We should be locked now, so that's about it. We'll let Jake go and take care of his house flying away and beating the Wicked Witch.
Yeah, I gotta go. What's that?
So I'm just reminding the people and reminding you too. I'm gonna be gone tomorrow. It's gonna be Josh and Jake on Friday doing the Live Before Lock show, and that is the last one of the pre All-Star break run here. So it'll be Josh and Jake tomorrow. Tune in. Jake will have his night shift coming up, so make sure to subscribe so you'll get that in your inbox or whatever whenever it goes live. Strategy video tomorrow morning, and anything else, Jake, before we ditch?
Yeah, keep an eye on the Blake Snell thing or the Kyle Gibson thing if you're playing them. I'm going to be keeping an eye on that, assuming I still have internet in the next hour. It's risky. It's a play that I think is sort of worth the risk, at least waiting until another hour. I'm going to go move my car into my garage. So see you guys tomorrow, hopefully.
All right, see you guys. Let's hope Jake doesn't fly away. Fingers crossed.